yourself customer.
This videotape is designed to show you how to safely and easily finish or refinish wooden floors. We suggest you review the tape first and develop a list of materials needed to complete your job. Afterwards, look at this video again and make sure you understand all the steps involved in the sanding process. Also, the equipment you'll be renting may vary from the equipment shown on this videotape. However, basic operation should be the same. There are several pieces of equipment you'll need to begin your sanding project. First, you'll need a drum sander to sand the body of the floor. Next, you will need an edger disc sander. This sander is used to work around the edges of the room and other areas where the drum sander simply can't reach. You may also want to use a rotary floor buffer with mesh screen disc to add a professional finishing touch to the sanding process. All of these power tools should be operated with proper caution and safety. Don't forget, you'll need coarse, medium, and fine sanding sheets and disc for the drum sander and the edger sander, along with a 120 grit mesh screen. You'll also need a tan or green 1-inch thick pad for the buffer to drive the screen. We recommend you wear a dust mask, safety glasses, plus proper ear protection when operating any power equipment. You'll also need a reliable vacuum cleaner, a hammer and a nail set, a small pry bar, and a hand scraper. You may also need wood filler and a putty knife. Plan to wear soft-soled shoes so you won't mar the floor. Now, talk to your rental house representative to find out how much product you need to purchase. The total amount of abrasives you will need varies. It depends on the condition of your floor. Get more than you think you'll need, especially if you're working on the weekend or after your store closes. Remember, in most cases, you can return your unused sandpaper to the rental store for a refund. And don't forget too, before you leave the store, have your store representative show you how to properly and safely install the sheets and disc on your drum and edger sanders. Also, have them demonstrate how to properly operate each machine. Remove all furniture and wall hangings from the room. Next, remove all curtains and blinds covering the windows. If the room has a large doorway, cover it with a drop cloth or plastic covering. Cover all air vents to keep dust from getting into your air circulation system. You might also want to cover the bottoms of exit or closet doors with towels or rags. Now, for a professional touch. With a prying tool, remove the quarter-round molding or baseboards in the room. Use a small wooden wedge between the wallboard and the pry bar to prevent damage to the wall. Inspect the floor, especially near the outside edges. Look for protruding nails. Countersink these nails so they won't damage your sander. Later, we'll fill these holes with wood filler. This is also a good time to inspect your floor for loose boards. If you find any, repair or replace by gluing and nailing them back into place. Now, vacuum or sweep the room to get rid of any grit on the floor that might affect the smoothness of the sanding process. If you're sanding an old floor that has been painted or is covered with thick, old finish or shows signs of excessive wear, then you'll need to start the sanding process using a coarse sanding sheet on your drum sander. The paper should be a 20 grit. But if your floors are only slightly worn or new, begin your first sanding step using medium 36 grit sandpaper. Use of a coarse abrasive will remove more than is necessary. Afterwards, proceed to your second sanding step using a fine 80 grit sandpaper. Make sure sanding equipment is unplugged before changing sandpaper. Now, divide the room into thirds and move your drum sander to a wall with 2/3 of the length of the floor in front of you. Here's another tip. If your floors are severely cupped or worn, your first sanding should probably be at a 45-degree angle to the grain of the wood. But normally, the sander should be heading in the same direction as the wood grain. Now, start the machine with the sanding drum off the floor. Slowly lower the drum to the surface and begin walking slowly with the sander as it pulls you along. Just before you get to the wall, raise the drum off the surface. Then slowly lower it and begin pulling the machine backwards until you get back to your original starting point. Don't try to remove all the finish during this first pass. Next, with the sanding head lifted off the floor, move the drum sander over about 4 inches. Now lower the drum to the surface and again begin moving forward. After a few passes, you will notice your sander's dust bag will start filling up. Stop sanding and empty the dust bag often. Be sure when you empty the bag, take it away from your job site to prevent possible fire hazards. If you start to notice the sanding rate is dropping, then your sanding sheet is probably clogged or worn out. Stop sanding and change your sheet. If you continue operating with a worn out or clogged sanding sheet, you'll eventually burn or damage your floor. This is very important. Now continue until 2/3 of the room has been sanded. Next, turn the sander around and begin sanding the remaining 1/3 of the floor. After you have completed coarse sanding of the floor with the drum sander, it's time to begin coarse 20 grit sanding with the disc edger sander to sand near the walls and in other areas not reached by the drum sander. Be sure to start the edger sander while it's on its side so you won't gouge the floor. Now move the edger in a brisk left to right circular motion. If the sander's cutting rate slows down, change the disc and continue. Once you have completed the edges of your room, vacuum up the sawdust you've generated. For the medium sanding step, load your drum sander with a medium 36 grit sanding sheet. Remember, this will be your first sanding step if your floors are new or only slightly worn. Start back with 2/3 of the room in front of you and slowly begin resanding the floor in the same direction as the wood grain. Don't forget to frequently empty the machine's dust bag and change the sanding sheets as needed. When you have completely sanded the room with medium grit sanding sheets, then go back over the edges with the edger sander also loaded with medium grit paper. After the edges have been resanded, be sure to re-vacuum the room a second time. Now that most of the finish has been removed, you may notice that cracks in the floor have been exposed. Fill these cracks along with any nail holes with wood filler using a putty knife. As the filler is drying, begin putting your fine 80 grit sandpaper on your drum sander. Also go ahead and put this same 80 grit paper on your edger. Now, drum sand your floor with fine sandpaper. Afterwards, complete your work along the edges. Next, take a scraper and begin cleaning the corners of your room that you couldn't reach with your sanders. You also might want to fold a sheet of fine sandpaper and use it to finish cleaning up those hard-to-reach areas. Then, sweep or vacuum the floor to get up any remaining dust. Now for the final sanding process. With your floor buffer and tan or green nylon pad, slowly lower the buffer over your 120 grit sanding screen. Keeping the buffer balanced, sand the entire floor in the direction of the wood grain. Overlap your passes by about 4 inches. The mesh screening adds that professional touch to your floor. After screening, vacuum your floor and the entire room, especially around window trim and air vents. Now, you're ready to put down the first coat of finish. Follow your manufacturer's recommendations and guidelines for putting down your new finish coating, and you'll have a newly refinished floor that you can be proud of. Thank you for allowing us to help you with your refinishing project.